Well, thank you so much for sticking around. I think we should give one more round of applause to this amazing cast and these artists. I want to start. I think I've seen all of you in various productions here at Open Stage. I'm thinking Treasure Island was in last. I just saw you in Into the Woods. So I wonder what it's like for all of you to come in and play a historical person. How is that different, or is it different than coming and playing Black Dog in Treasure Island? How is that different? And also, you know, not just a historical person, but a person who is a victim of immense injustice and everything that carries with it. Do you want to start?
Sure, I'll take a stab at that.
Your drink's arriving, so that'll help.
In regards to playing a historical real-life person that most people truly do know the story about, and that of a person who is just a fictional character in a book, I would love to be Black Dog again. Anne is beautiful, and it's so challenging, and I don't know if everyone else feels the same way, but these characters, these people feel extremely precious,
yeah.
And you want to do everything you can to make sure that they're being loved. That's the only way I can describe it, I guess.
Yeah. Sharia, do you want to respond to that at all too?
Yeah, sure. So when I'm on stage lately, in the past probably 15 years, have been doing historical characters. So this was a really natural kind of transition and progression for me. But usually I'm playing someone who lived in the mid-19th century, and people aren't as in touch and know about it. So I felt a tremendous honor and weight to get Mamie right, but also honor the context of how we were presenting this story as storytellers, embodying and going in and out of this imaginary make-believe world. So for me, it was this process of how to I honor Mamie, honor the story and the history, but also artistically keep it in this storytelling frame that, you know, was the vision of Stuart, our director.
Right. Keel, what about for you, playing a historical person like Emmett?
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
There is, I said it early on, and I said it even last week before we even opened, that I wasn't sure if I was doing it right. And I say that not in the sense of like acting, but in the sense of this was a real person.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of impulses and things that I would do if it was just a character on a page or whatever, to bring it to life or whatever, but you can't do that. He was real. He had a huge impact on everything that happened. And I don't know, I still don't even feel like I get it right, you know what I mean? It's a lot.
What I hear you saying, there's a sense of stewardship, right, of this story of this person and their memory. That's so important.
You want to tell it faithfully without making it a caricature.
Yeah.
Because, like it says, not everybody knows his story.
Yeah.
So if this is somebody's first time seeing it, first time hearing about it, not really understanding it or whatever, then I want to be able to convey how he might have felt, you know what I mean, what exactly was going on as best as I can, and not leave them walking away with any type of embellished thoughts or anything as to what could have possibly happened.
Right. So even if you feel like you're still kind of trying to get it right, what do you feel like you've learned, either about Emmett or about yourself or about this story? I mean, I'd love for everybody to reflect on that. What have you learned? Go ahead, Joellen.
it's really hard to convey what the process for this production has been like. I have never had the honor to portray such an important story, and with all these wonderful people also at task to share this story. And we worked so hard to make sure we took care of this story and did it right. And I have already lost track of the question that you have asked.
It's okay. What have you learned?
Well, oh God, I really can't put it into words. It's just, this has been a tremendously difficult and rewarding and precious experience is what I've learned. I've never done anything this challenging. And every evening when we show up here to rehearse or to put it on for the people who are finally coming to see the show, it's nerve-wracking every time, because are we gonna do the justice? Are we gonna do the story justice every time? And I've never felt that kind of nervousness when hitting the stage, and I've been acting for nearly 30 years now. So this is the first time that it's really like, there's just so much weight.
Yeah.
I learned, one, how to care for each other. So as a cast, doing something that is such a heavy, weighty and relevant. So, and then also working to really dig for us and find that the history and then protect that, but also the relevance, and then respect that. I learned through this story those parallels, and it forced me between blacks and Jews. I grew up in Baltimore, and we had a lot of interaction with Jewish people in the work and the things that my father did. It was black business and Jewish businesses right next to each other, and I was thankful for Jewish people, because that meant on Sunday, because we had blue laws when I was growing up, so stores weren't open on Sunday except the Jewish stores. So I really appreciated Jewish people because their stores were open on Sunday.
Yeah.
And that, and that's like how we jived and vibed in our community.
Yeah.
But learning some of the similarities about hate and how it was exercised and executed on people. But also, it was important in this storytelling and journey not to go into a trauma Olympics and one up.
Yeah.
My trauma was worse than yours, and your trauma was, but no, like hate manifested itself like this. And so that's the one thing, I really got out of this is, how do we take this story and bring out and protect and elevate the real historical truths around it, but also have this broader conversation and be real and authentic about it.
Right.
And not come out of that conversation or conduct it in hate and anger, but really learn and care for each other.
Yeah. I love what you said there. When I came in, today was my first time seeing the play, and I came in knowing Anne's story, knowing Emmett's story, and I assumed that it would just be the two of you. I didn't know that the play would bring in these other voices, bring in the parents in particular. And so I'm curious, David, maybe you can start here. Why do you think it's important to feature Anna's father? And why do you think it's important that Emmett's mother be a part of this play too, a part of the story? David, you want to start?
I'll tie this in with...
You're good. You're good.
I'll tie this in with what your last question was.
Yes, please.
Is that Otto never wanted to be a person of prominence. He just wanted to be a good provider. He wanted to be a good family man, a good man of faith, and found himself having to, for all this time, try to protect everyone, not knowing how it was going to end.
Yeah.
And it's important that it gives, at least for Emmett and Anna, it gives them context with their relationships with their parents, that the parents tried so hard to do what parents do, which is you try to prevent all the lethal mistakes.
Yeah.
You're going to put the fork in the light socket. You're just going to do that. But you want to try to help them make the good choices, and suddenly they find themselves thrown into this situation where they've got to say, you absolutely your life depends on doing these things.
Yeah.
And convincing teenagers that that they're serious about it.
Right. Difficult conversations.
Yeah, difficult conversations. So I think having Mamie and Otto's voice in this really, like Dave said, kind of elevates the importance of the parents instilling the culture, the rules, and the pushback that you get from human beings who haven't been on this earth long, but think they know everything.
What you trying to say?
But
Yeah, right.
not everybody love you like I love you. But also, the parallel between the two parents is that they took the tragedy. They are the ones responsible for the movement, for giving the meaning and the purpose to the deaths of their children. And it's a really sad thing. I know in my community that's happening.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why it takes a voice that to give voice, to elevate change, or that call to action after these precious lives have been taken.
Mm-hmm.
And for Mamie, I think Mamie was just in the 50s, and to make this decision, like, she was just straight up a badass.
Yeah. Strong.
Black woman.
Strong. Yeah.
And then she made this decision going against the grain, and it's like, you know what? Someone has to do something different. And regardless of how horrible and stinky and ugly this is, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna let it, I'm just gonna pull it up and let people see.
Yeah.
And I don't think
And
Otto
on
or
a
Mamie, they didn't intend, they didn't know
Yes.
they were starting this movement, and that's the encouraging thing. You just do what you have to do.
It was also a way for them to help process their own guilt, because
I think that's a
Otto
great point.
had
Yeah.
enormous guilt that
Yeah.
he lived.
Yeah.
And the only thing he could do to help make that somewhat palatable was to broadcast the story of his daughter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Keel, you asked that great question. I think it's fairly early on in the play. What if we don't remember them? What if we don't? So I'm curious kind of what all of you think about that question, like, as we sit here today and as you've shared this play with this community in Harrisburg, like, what if we don't remember them? What is the risk if we lose these stories?
So it's my personal belief that human nature is stuck in a cycle. We repeat ourselves. We're doing it now.
Mm-hmm.
Lord forbid, even if we did forget, somebody else would come along and they would do it. Somebody else would need to be remembered in the same exact way.
Yeah.
And somebody's parent would do it. Somebody's best friend would do it. And that sucks. And it shouldn't be a thing, but
Yeah.
it seems to be human nature until, again, like the play says or whatever, until somebody stands up and it's like, no, let's try something else. But I lost track of what I was saying.
That's
Sorry.
okay. Anybody else want to respond to what Keel said there? What's the risk? What if we don't remember these stories?
Well, as somebody who played a character that I don't think I necessarily want to remember,
Yeah, sure.
I think part of the reason for including that bit in the play is to remember, like, this guy got away. He got away. They enabled this to happen, and it's important to remember these things, because it's like, it's not, there are casual Millims like now. Like this guy, he's totally the extreme of the hatred that you see in the play, but it's not just extremes.
Right.
And by putting that in the forefront and showing people, hey, this is bad, and we don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I think that's the purpose of at least having that in this piece.
Yeah. Keel.
I think it's curious that, like you said, like it's an extreme, and I think that a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm not racist because if I saw that going on, I would do something about it.
Right.
But it doesn't look like that anymore so
Right.
much,
Right.
right? And it takes different. The victims take different faces. So does the hatred. And the way that we choose to respond and or not respond to it is so important. And I think even amongst like our personal, like, I'm not saying you have to like go start a YouTube channel and go tell everybody this is what it looks like, how dare you. I'm saying, like, even amongst your personal friends, your personal family, the little things. It's the little things that say, oh, hey, you might not be thinking about this right. Hey, you may not be educated on this. I wasn't educated on this until last year. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's from all sides, because like no one's going to teach you. You have to want to invest in it and want to go learn. And then you have to be able to decipher, is this true? Is this not? Whose side is this coming from? You know what I mean? Because history is all in which label is able to persist. Thank you, Wicked. And you know who wins.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have to be able to hold on to the will to want to find out everything there is about a topic in order to change not only yourself, but the people around you.
And it seems like go ahead, David.
I was going to say, I think it's harder now than at any other time to remember anything. There was a time when we remembered phone numbers.
Right.
717-545-22.
There was, and remembered, and back when I was like,
Yeah. You can go there.
But-
you can go there.
but we have so much information we get all the time, every day.
Yeah.
We scroll through, in the course of a day or in the course of a week, we scroll through more terrible things
Sure.
than some generations saw in months. And we become pretty inured to that. And so we can go, terrible thing, cat video, terrible thing, weather report.
Sure.
We don't remember the terrible things because we get used to it. So how do we hang on to those things that we know we can change? And sometimes it involves a lot of personal will to identify those things and slow down enough to say, I have to take this seriously. Somebody else might not do anything about this.
Yeah.
Whatever this is,
Yeah.
whether it's climate, whether it's race, whether it's gender equality. But we whip through stuff every day, and at the end of the day, we probably can't recall 5 things we saw of significance.
Sure. Yeah.
So the challenge is greater to remember anything.
And it seems like one of the things that the play points to is the importance of faith and tradition comes up in the play at various times too, and that faith communities do provide a space for ritual and remembrance, and that is so important. And you even did that at the end of the play, having those pictures and those dates and those names, reminding us to connect the dots, right, and think about this history is ongoing. It's not just Mississippi back then.
Yeah.
Europe
It's
back
Mississippi
then.
right now.
Sure.
So we don't have to really recall too far back.
Right.
Anybody can Google Mississippi and Google January 18, 2023 and find some pretty horrendous things going on that it just almost mirrors what this play is about. One of the things that strike me in this play is at the end when Emmett and Anne are talking, the characters are talking about remembering. We have to remember, But then there's a stop, a pause. Wait a minute, remembering's not enough.
Yeah.
You've got to do something. You've got to take action, or we'll keep doing it. And that's where the over and over, I think we do a great job of remembering and ritualizing, and then it stops there. The hard work is, okay, so what can we do in this time and place to change,
Right.
or to continue the conversation? So when we talk about communities of faith and culture, that's also a time where we're so divided and separate.
Yeah.
And this production was a time to bring it together. Come together and like talk about it and learn, and also give space and respect to have the difficult conversations and respect the rituals, respect the remembrance. But then we can't do it alone. The systemic nature of racism, of gender hate, of all of these things, not one race, not one culture, not one religious community is going to solve it. And so yeah, where do we go from there? And it's a bigger conversation.
As you were describing that, I'm thinking about the set design. So we're going to get a little bit technical here, but I'm thinking about how at the back of the stage, there's mirrors, right? And so that makes me think we're supposed to be looking in the mirror here, right, as an audience, and thinking about how are we complicit, or how are we standing up and acting and using our voices, using our power. But I'm curious, what do you all think about the way that everything was designed? I'm thinking about the lights being on in the room, the mirrors, the candles, the way that you all were part of the audience sitting in the front. So just if anybody wants to talk about that a little bit, any of those choices or kind of the impact they have on the play.
Well, I know with me it's very interesting because sorry.
It's okay.
My character is the one that murders Emmett Till, and I am in the audience the entire time with everybody.
Yeah.
And to me, there was definitely something about that. It's like I am here with all of you.
Yeah.
And I could be any one of you. And it's, again, reflective. Another interesting thing, just a quick thing, is that when I have my moment with Mamie in the play, and we are kind of having a moment, there is a mirror right in front of me, and I am standing there, and I can see the audience and myself. And don't know exactly where I was going with that.
But that's powerful.
It's the imagery of having that in the audience, and the idea of having that in the audience to remind people to think about this.
Sure. KEEL.
I think being in the audience is fun for a myriad of reasons. I get to sit in a nice seat. It's a nice cushion. Those benches are not comfortable. So
it's a little bit of a break on your,
B, it kind of, I feel like it creates a bit of a connection. You have the opportunity to create the connection with whoever is sitting around you, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to that I'm talking to you or whatever, but acknowledging your presence, like you acknowledging mine or whatever. Okay, we've established we are two humans. We are here to do a thing together. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of a bond there, and then I get to go on stage and play with that. Not in a bad way. I'm sorry, but and then the stage being so bare like it is, with just the candles, just the mirrors, and just the benches and the scream in the back, it can be anywhere. It can be anything. And I think that subtext is so important because not only can it look like anybody, it can be anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I go, I'm sure we could all come up with instances as women, as black people, as, men, you know what I mean, where we're in situations where it's just like, what the fuck just happened? Did she just, Okay, you know what I mean? Because you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
And it happens anywhere, and it can come from anyone.
It can come from the guy behind you that
Yes,
you didn't know
and
was
that's-
there.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, right? Is that like racist people don't feel like they're wrong, so they have no issue with saying what they say because they're 100% as sure as you and I are in the fact that you are wrong. They are 100% sure that, oh no, I'm right. So they don't have a problem saying it, and they will go to bat to defend that. So the trick comes in being able to present it looking like this, where it could be anywhere that they're thinking as well, and to realize that we live here, we have lives, we do things here, apart from you, that have nothing to do with you. Sometimes it does interact with you or whatever, but even when we do interact, it's not negative. We can bond.
Yeah.
We can, over anything, over anywhere. And that's just super important to me.
I think the sparsity of the set dressing and the intention behind what we do have there and us being in the audience is just more of a reminder to say that we're all equal in this, even though we are the players and some of us are the audience. It's about the equality of the experience. In the very beginning, Stuart really wanted a dining table and for us to be at a dining table, and there's nothing that's more equal in this world than sitting at the same table and sharing a meal with someone. So I think that's what the set design speaks to, is that this is for all of us, whether we're in it and embodying these people and telling these stories, or whether we have to sit down and hear the stories, sitting in the chairs in the audience. I'm in there for maybe 15 minutes, and I am receiving the information the exact same way that the audience is taking it. And I'm not a player at that moment. I'm learning.
You're experiencing
every
it.
time.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I love our set. I think
That's
it's
great.
wonderful.
Yeah, I do love it, and it's a little unnerving for me to be in the audience because I don't know what's going on behind me, and where I sit, I have no look or reflection into the mirror. So while I'm doing this, like subliminally, like, oh, I am that voice, I am the one that no one is really seeing me. Oh, hello, real world. And I don't know what's behind me. I don't know what's coming at me from behind me. I'm going to trust the audience. I've got to trust my partners on stage. I've got to trust my director that he's looking back and that they all have my back. And that, for me, can people get it? And without seeing me and without me seeing them. So this was really something I've never done before, but I loved it. And I can hear, like I hear the candy wrappers all the time when we're on stage. It's a really intimate space, so that's nothing new.
Right.
But hearing a candy wrapper from behind you,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Yeah, that was you? You were throwing that over there?
Which one of you was it out there?
Yeah. And opening night, the woman that was sitting to my left at the after the show, she said, you know, the whole time I just wanted to throw my arms around you
Yeah.
and say, it's okay, it's okay. And then she said, and then I had to keep telling myself, she's an actor, okay? This is a play. She's, okay? But, you know, she
Don't
shared
touch a
with
person
me.
you don't know. Yeah, right.
For an hour and a half, she struggled
Right.
with and wanting to, like, say, oh my gosh, so
Yeah.
there's that connection, and I actually love being right there.
That's
It's
great.
so intimate
Yeah.
with the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, we've only got a few minutes left, so I want to make sure that we turn to you and make sure that if you have any questions that you want to ask these artists, that you have an opportunity to. So what questions or comments or conversation starters do you want to bring to us? Yeah, right here.
I want to say I appreciate you acknowledging the indigenous people that were here before us, I think it's vitally important for us to recognize that's just as much a part of our American history as everything else. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
First of all, you communicated the horror really well. Okay. She asked a question that you all never answered, and I really want to hear the answer to this. What did you learn about yourselves in the roles that you played?
I pushed the limits of my acting. There's only so much you can do with imagination at some points. Because I'm so close to the situation of the show as a black person and even as a gay person, there's plenty of personal experience to draw from of the things that I have experienced or the things that my people have experienced that I hear about on the news and that people don't seem to care about. You know what I mean? So finding a way to pull all of that into myself and then express it in a way that's going to impact people in the proper way and that is going to make people feel the things that I want them to feel. I found that extremely hard to do. It's very tiring. I'm going to go home and sleep after this. But yeah, that's kind of what I learned.
Anybody else? What did you learn about yourself? David?
I learned from this character that it's much easier to play a made-up person. It's much easier to play the caricature. It's much easier. I have been the dad of a 16-year-old. And just as Keel is saying, when you're on stage grieving the loss of somebody, you're dangerously close to stepping over the edge. And you think, when you've done a lot of acting, you think one role is like the next. But when you are being the dad on stage, standing right next to the dad in real life, I didn't realize until much later in the rehearsal process how careful you have to be. And I'm sure Sharia would agree that you find yourself becoming protective and you find yourself experiencing a lot more clearly those emotions than, if you were playing somebody in Christmas Carol roles.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you play a grieving parent in that play as well, but you're saying it's different.
It's very different.
It's different.
I learned that just really this play and being in it is just affirming that I am resilient for a greater purpose. And as founder of Sankofa, and this is what we do, this was the reason for this partnership. We tell these stories. These are our stakes in the ground. These are the stories we tell. This is how we tell them. And so this was affirming that I need to continue to do this, because this has been weary work, and kind of like in the middle of it, I was like, why am I doing this? I don't want to do that. This is harder. It keeps getting harder and harder. No one's really getting me or hearing me. I feel that. Like I'm on this island by myself in this culture thing, and then we go into rehearsal and I hear a line, I hear a revelation, like, okay, I am going to keep doing this until I take my last breath.
One more question.
It's not,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
It's
Go
not
ahead,
so
Greg.
much a question, but a big thank you from, if I could speak on behalf of everybody, from all of us. But I also want to just say, Sharia, mirrors or no mirrors, I don't care where you sit, we see you, we get you.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. All right. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope maybe you can stay around and meet these artists too, but let's give them one more round of applause for this show. And come back and tell your friends to come see it too. Right? Right?